Okay, so the RLPA standoff with the NRL over the CBA negotiations is continuing, and the potential for a player strike has grown quite considerably since the media boycott began over a month ago. It's grown quite considerably. Now, they threatened strike action in the pre-season. They backed down at the last minute, and they resumed negotiations to get to this point. Now, what we do know is that the offer is on the table. What we also know is the players and the RLPA are happy with the financial aspect of the offer, with increased pay, increased salary cap, and increased minimum salary for those on the bottom end of the salary scale. So this isn't really about money, which the players receive, although money is part of the aspect of this standoff. What the issues are more to do with player welfare, increasing the length of the season, and the players' data. They're the main, more important sticking points. Now, yes, there will obviously have to be money put forward into education programs and player welfare programs. So there is some money involved in this. The way that most of the mainstream media is portraying it is the players are the bad guys here. The players are the bad guys, which is generally what happens in any dispute between players and league, in whatever league we're talking about globally. The players are portrayed as greedy, selfish, poorly educated, when in reality a lot of the players are very well spoken. Clint Newton, who is the head of the RLPA, has given some interviews on TV and radio, and he comes across as quite articulate and quite intelligent. Now, whether Clint Newton is the right guy to be the RLPA head is another question for another day. But the longer this rolls on, the more likely we are to see heads to roll, either at the NRL or the RLPA or both. What is also frustrating players in more recent days is the NRL's refusal to agree to an independent mediator to come in. They've had two previous independent mediators up to this point. The RLPA would like to have a new independent mediator brought in to the discussions. The NRL is refusing to agree to appoint one. So that has angered the RLPA. And I'm not sure all the players are fully in agreement with the current stance taken by the RLPA. I don't believe that is the case. And I do think within the NRL, there has to be those within the NRL who do think they should go back to the negotiating table. I don't think either side is fully unified in their current stance, where the NRL saying it's to take it or leave it offer, and the RLPA want 100 areas discussed about changes, which they're not going to get, but they say they're not happy with 100 areas in the deal that's on the table. What we're not hearing is from the players on this, really. A handful of players, when the RLPA are giving press statements, are coming out and saying that we're not happy with certain aspects of this standoff. Now, they have relented on covering up the NRL logo, which they did a week ago. In both the NRL and NRLW games, they covered the logo. And they have stood by their media boycott. So they're not giving pre-match interviews, half-time interviews, and post-match interviews. It's just on the coaches right now giving the post-match and pre-match interviews. They are basically doing the bare minimum of media commitments, which is in their contracts. Ironically, is they have to give a minimum number of hours per season. Each player has to give media commitments. So they are literally doing the barest of bare minimum when it comes to their media commitments. And so obviously that's added fuel to the fire on the media side of things. The media are coming down in favour of the NRL. Now, from reports coming out of the RLPA, is they are considering striking at some point. Now, what is very interesting is actually a strike does work in their favour at this current time, because the NRL obviously wants to get their grand finals for both the men's and women's games played on the 1st of October with a double header. They want to get it done on the 1st at a core stadium, and they of course want to take games to Las Vegas. They've pretty much confirmed all 4 teams that are going to go at the start of next season. Now, the CBA needs to be in place by next season, otherwise we go into next season with no CBA. which is troubling. So the clock is ticking. It's already the end of the first week of August. The CBA needs to be in place at least by the end of the end of season test matches. So we're talking end of October, beginning of November. There's only 2-3 months to actually get a resolution. The players do have that threat of strike action. They could announce that they refuse to play this weekend, for example, although they're more likely to strike at some point during the final series, either at the beginning of the final series or before the grand final or the last week of the season. And that then puts pressure on the NRL to complete, get the postseason wrapped up in a timely manner, and release players, obviously, for the end of season test matches like the Tongan Tour to the UK, for example. That then puts pressure on the end of season and then the postseason and the off season. We've seen enough disruption over the last 3 years. And then that obviously then puts pressure on the pre-season for next year, and obviously getting the games in Vegas played. So the longer this drags on, the more damaging it becomes for both sides. Of course, if the players strike, they don't get paid. So it's a balancing act. Because the NRL have basically said they do have contingency plans in place. Sort of like that film The Replacements with Keanu Reeves. They basically said they'll either call up reserve graders or rugby league players from North America to fulfil fixtures. So they say they've got contingencies in place in the eventuality of a player strike. But the likelihood of a player strike happening is stronger now than what it was when the media boycott was implemented by the RLPA a month or so ago. So we are more likely to have a player strike. I do think this does get resolved without a strike, but the fact that they have that trump card up their sleeve, I think will be putting pressure on the NRL to come to some sort of negotiation and at least give some ground on some of the areas that the players and the RLPA are not happy with, like players' data, the education, welfare, and training programs, and also the scheduling, when the NRL can add extra games into a season, change the scheduling. I think the players want to say on that. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if this does end up with a player strike, but the likelihood has grown. So there we go. What do you think on the situation? Do you think there's going to be a player strike? And do you think we can see a resolution before the end of the season or before next season? Will we get a CBA confirmed, in place, signed off and agreed upon? We shall wait and see. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.